Hi there, I'm Karen Marie, and this is Psyched Up for Sunday, January 10th, 2021. So now we know why I had the anxiety that I did last Sunday when I was recording this. If you watched last week, you'll know that I was feeling like something was about to happen and I didn't know what, but I felt like it was going to be happening in last week and that we were going to be walking around saying, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. And so I have to say that once Wednesday's event at the Capitol did happen, I had some sense of relief because I knew what the anxiety I had been feeling for days was about. So, also interestingly, Mars, I was talking about worrying about Mars at its last 2 degrees also. When that event broke out in the Capitol, Mars was on its very last like minutes in Aries. It was at 50. There's 29 degrees in a chart, and then like kind of like seconds. You can go up to like 59 points after the 29. So kind of like the minutes on a clock. So it was at 29 and then 56 when that broke out. So in the last minutes of Mars in Aries, when that stuff broke out at the Capitol. So that was so interesting for me just to look at astrologically. So super intensive. So this week I'm going to talk about the transits for this week, and we also have some pretty intensive transits this week. I don't feel like the surprising events are over. Like I had said in the last couple of videos, the theme for 2021 is going to be surprising events because Uranus will be a huge player all year long. And Pluto is a big player this week. So Pluto may have been demoted as a planet, but it is still packs a powerful punch. It represents death and transformation. It's power and control issues. It's protesting. Wherever Pluto gets close to something, there is a death, there is an ending of something. And so this week, we'll be having a new moon on Tuesday. Well, here in Austin, it will be Tuesday evening at 11 p.m., so Central Standard Time on Tuesday the 12th. Some people will be experiencing it on the 13th, early in the morning. But so what's interesting about this new moon coming up this week, it's going to be at 23 degrees 24, right in there at the 24 degree point, 23, 24 of Capricorn, which is where all this stellium of outer planets was hanging out all year long. In fact, the point of the new moon is the same degree that last year we had the Pluto-Saturn conjunction in January. So new moons are always new beginnings, time to plant new seeds. But the fact that it's happening, the sun and the moon are together, that's what makes a new moon. The fact that these two are together at the same point in the sky that we had this great conjunction that kicked off 2020, I think it's a good time for everyone to ask yourself, what within yourself did you transform in this last year? Like, what have you seen the death of and the rebirth in terms of your life? Like, what have you accomplished in this last year? So this new beginning that we'll be having with this new moon is a potent one because the sun and the moon will be conjunct Pluto. So Pluto's at 24 degrees right now. And so they'll be right in there, the sun and the moon, with this death and transformation. So this new birth energy with a new moon is going to be combined with the potency of Pluto this week, death and transformation. So super, super powerful and intensive new moon. So we will be seeing surprise events this week as well. There's also 3 different powerful squares this week. So we'll be having Mercury squaring Uranus on Tuesday. We have Mars squaring Saturn on Wednesday, and we'll have the Jupiter squaring Uranus on Sunday. So really all week long, we're having planets that are just coming to heads with each other. So it's not a smooth and easy week by any means. And then we have this theme of death and transformation in the middle of the week. And the Pluto energy and the Capricorn energy, Pluto in the late degrees of Capricorn is government. Capricorn is government control or authoritarian control over us, or like patriarchal control, or like a dominating father's control in your life. So the United States of America has their Pluto natally. We'd have our Pluto natally, and I'd use the time of July 4th, 1776 at 5:10 p.m. in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania is the time that I use for the USA chart. So I've got that pulled up here on my computer. So the United States Pluto is at 27 degrees of Capricorn. So we're having what's called a Pluto return. And so this death and transformation energy in the last degrees of Capricorn is the energy that we founded our country in. And so Pluto at 24 degrees is 3 degrees off the natal Pluto. It's considered conjunct. So death and transformation meets death and transformation. So we are having a hugely transformative time that we've begun. It'll get even more intensive as Pluto gets closer to the natal Pluto later this year. It'll be until 2024 that Pluto will be hanging out in these last degrees of Capricorn, and then it'll be moving into Aquarius. So the three biggest areas that I see activated in everyone's charts when I've been doing private readings, but just as I look at the astrology, is this energy of where Pluto is in your chart in Capricorn, where Uranus is in your chart, that's in Taurus right now, and then Saturn and Jupiter and now Mercury have moved into Aquarius. So we're going to be having this Aquarius theme for this year too. So at the end of when I'm talking about the transits for the week, I'm going to go through the astrology of all 12 signs and kind of pick out these main areas in the Aries chart and the Taurus chart. I'm going to go through all 12 signs and tell you where I see that these energies can show up in your life. So get more specific in the channelings and readings using the astrology at the end of the transit. So we have the sun today is, as I'm recording this, at 21 degrees of Capricorn. The moon is in the last degrees of Sag. So Venus is at the beginning degrees of Capricorn. It's at 3 degrees of Capricorn right now. So let me just stop and talk about some of this stuff. So sun going through Capricorn. Capricorn is areas where we feel leadership and we have strength and again, power. So especially when it's in the later degrees. So this week, the sun will move from 21 degrees of Capricorn to 27 degrees. So the 20s in any sign is really thinking for the future. So this is where we take power and control. We think about the power and control, the areas we want to have control over in our lives, areas where other people, other things have power and control over us. Like some of these death and transformations are going to be like, no more. I'm going to remove myself from this energy where I feel like you're controlling me. So those themes are going to be playing out really loud and clear for folks. This week, particularly with the sun in these last degrees of Capricorn, and the sun will be conjuncting Pluto this week as well. So when the sun gets to 27 degrees when it gets to 24 degrees, the sun conjuncts Pluto on Thursday, but then on Sunday, the sun will be conjuncting America's natal Pluto. So this theme of power and control issues is all week long. And I talked about last week some of the backdrop that we have, and we have some of the same backdrop this week as we had last week. So we have Aries, which is now going direct. It's been retrograde. It's moved to go forward. It's at 23 degrees, 24 right in there. Let me look and see where she is at the moment. 23.27 is where Eris is in Aries right now. So she's squaring Pluto at 24 degrees. So this is the goddess of awakening and mayhem and standing up for your rights, squaring off with Pluto, which is death and transformation, power and control issues. So that is still the backdrop. That will continue to be the backdrop for a lot of this year. So we're going to have this protesting and people's ideas clashing and objecting to people who think they have power and control over you or over them. That's an ongoing power struggle that we have going on in the skies. Thankfully, we've had Mars now move into Taurus. Right now, as I record this, is at 1 degree of Taurus. So Uranus is at 6 degrees. So they're conjunct. Anything within 7 degrees is conjunct. So it will draw closer to Uranus this week. And the other big thing that's going on this week is Uranus stations to turn direct on Thursday. On the same day that the sun is conjunct the transiting Pluto, Uranus stations to go direct. So we can feel transits ahead of time. We can feel them afterwards. So there's usually this orb before it is exact, intensity when it is exact, and then we can still feel the effects afterwards. So often, I mean, I'm feeling transits usually before they actually happen. Like last week, I was feeling the intensity coming and I didn't know what it was, but it was on Sunday last week I was feeling an intensity that was that happened on Wednesday. So we can feel things, far out, especially if you're intuitive and you're tuned in to the energies. So anytime I talk about any of these aspects, we can feel these aspects before, during, and after. So there's lots of crossover too this week of different things that are going on that cross over each other. So we have the backdrop of Pluto, which isn't moving now. It's going to stay at 24 for the rest of the month, and Eris, which is now moving forward. So, and then anytime a planet stations to turn forward or backwards, we feel its potency the most. So Uranus is a spiritual planet. It is the great awakener. It's a maverick. It's very spiritual, but it's disconcerting. It likes to come out of nowhere to shake things up. It is sudden, unexpected things. So with the Mars in the last degrees of Aries on Wednesday, it was still conjunct Uranus, right? So the sudden, unexpected Mars, the god of war, ruling, this cray-cray that happened in our nation's capital. So that's an example of how Uranus can just, when something activates with Uranus, it can just shake things up and things can come out of nowhere. The good news is that anything that happens under the influence of Uranus it may be sudden, unexpected, disconcerting, but Uranus cleans it up and makes it better. Like it's always knocking things down that we don't need in our lives, that's not important, and replacing them with things that are better, right? So Mars, the god of war, is just like barreling on through, balls to the wall. In Taurus, it's moved out of its home sign in Aries, so it starts to slow up and gets a little more cautious and careful. Let's see, let's measure this, let's weigh this out, right? Let's see. But it's heading into closer and closer degrees of Uranus. So I'm super concerned. Mars is exactly conjunct Uranus on the 20th next week. So like I said, we have a couple more gnarly weeks ahead, just with the potential of violence and acting out like we've been seeing. I'm also concerned about foreign invaders at this point in time. It's really more logical, rational than it is psychic. Like if I was a foreign power that hated the United States, I would attack them when when they're caught off guard, when they're under this great confusion of what to do with our president, who has incited these people to attack a branch of government. It's it's just like, again, walking around saying, I can't believe it. I can't believe it was exactly the right words to use for that. But I feel like that's going to be the theme for the whole year. I can't believe it. So we're going to be having sudden, unexpected things that we can't believe happening all year long. The good news is with Uranus behind it, it will bring about a refreshing replacement or energy in its place. So that's the good news. So Monday, tomorrow, we have the moon crossing Venus. So that's a sweet little kiss. The moon represents our intuition, our emotions, our feelings, crossing Venus, the planet that represents love and relationships and what we want to put our passion into, what we love, what we're passionate about. So it's a great time for downloads, psychic and spiritual. It's a great time to get clear about creative energies. It's a great time to get clarity around relationships. And this is in the energy the day before the new moon. So also things can come to a head, I've seen, before the new moon happens, like just things can come to its like last straw. So watch out for that kind of energy too. On Monday, we'll have Mercury conjuncting Jupiter. So Jupiter expands things. Right now, Jupiter's at 5 degrees of Aquarius and Saturn's at 2 degrees of Aquarius. So they are moving into a square with Uranus, right? So Saturn's our rule maker, where our boundaries, our stop signs. It's also laws, rules. So it's in a loose square with Uranus. It's in a square with Mars. So again, the god of war is squaring off with Saturn, our rules and laws. And Mercury right now is right in between the two of them. Mercury's at 4 degrees. So Mercury represents our communication, our transportation, our computers, our technology. It's social media. It's our siblings. It's our neighbors. And so it's between Saturn and Jupiter. It's between the rules and Jupiter, our beliefs, and that expands us. So it's like it's getting this energy from both sides, which is kind of going haywire all over social media stuff, right? So we've had social media shutting down certain things this last week. So there's just this interesting energy with Mercury having crossed Saturn when there was this Saturn was like going, no more, here's the rules. So it's going to be conjuncting with Jupiter tomorrow. So they'll both be at 5 degrees. So this is an expansion, Jupiter expanding the things that Mercury represents. So there could be, again, more social media brouhaha tomorrow, or even like getting your own communication could be fired up and expanded. Like you may feel like you want to write more yourself because Mercury rules the head in any form of communication. So you might want to even be journaling, right? Or you may be texting or emailing yourself. Just as how it could show up in a personal way. Okay, so on Tuesday, the sun's going to be at 22 degrees. And so 22 mixed to a 4, it's twos are I feel, and I feel some more. I feel about the future, trying to feel out our future. And the 4 is a breakdown, breakthrough. So it can be a disconcerting energy when any planet is at a 22 or any planet makes to a, breaks down to a 4. And so it can be shocking, unexpected things just with the sun in its placement. Then Mercury squaring Uranus, again, can be shocking things being communicated on the news, through social media. So it also can be like secrets coming out. So as we're moving into this new moon that will be conjunct Tuesday night, conjunct Pluto, we're really facing our fears of like power and control issues in our life, and the shifting and changing, the new beginning and the rebirth and the death of something around power and control. So super powerful new moon. So if you're wanting to launch something, a new thing in your life that is going to be the end of something, this is the time to do it. I'm really feeling relationships may be coming to a head, and people may be ending relationships. They may be leaving jobs. They may be, shifting patterns within themselves, starting new habits. I'm no longer going to eat sugar, for example, or I'm going to put down the alcohol. I'm going to put down the extracurricular drugs or whatever. Like, there can be these new commitments. With the potency of Pluto, it really adds to any kind of intention that you might bring into the new moon. So I'm just going to throw that out there, that if you're wanting to make a major change in your life, this is a great week to set the intention and do that. Even if you don't see the immediate change, it can set the ripple effect. It can set things into motion. Planting the seeds. We don't always plant the seed right and pick the fruit right away. There's usually a process involved, but it's a great, powerful point to start something new, start a new behavior. And then on Wednesday, we have Mars squaring Saturn. And also the moon will be crossing Mercury and Saturn. And so there's this, the moon's going to be Aquarius, Mercury, Saturn, and Jupiter are all in Aquarius on Wednesday and Thursday. So there's an extra emphasis in this energy. The Aquarian is Aquarius is ruled by Uranus. So it's got this Uranian energy of like sudden unexpected things, doing things outside the box. It's the focus on humanity as a whole and people vibing together and let's all work together. It's an air sign, so it can make you kind of spacey too with planets in Aquarius. You can just like have difficulty focusing sometimes, or you may come up with just innovative ideas too with all this energy in Aquarius. So it can be a very positive sign. But if people are used to the status quo and I like it this way, you're going to have the most trouble, because Uranus energy, Aquarius energy likes to shake things up and wants to do things outside of the box. So we'll have the sun conjuncting Pluto on Thursday. Again, this powerful energy of the sun that illuminates the energy of death and transformation, super intensive. And Uranus goes direct on that same day. So again, the energy of Uranus going direct is, Uranus is in Taurus, so it can literally be shaking things up on the earth. Like, we could have earthquakes, we can have volcanoes, we can have that kind of earth events with Uranus changing directions too. So it's not just in the political realm or in the media realm. It can be literally the earth making some major changes. And so also next to Uranus in the skies, besides Mars moving closer to it, Black Lilith is on the other side of Uranus at 9 degrees. So it's still conjunct on the other side. So Black Lilith is our deepest fears. And so we can have sudden unexpected things come up that really trigger our deepest fears. The moon's going to be crossing over Jupiter on Thursday. So that's expanding intuition. Again, downloads can be, it's interesting because there's a lot of this, anytime the moon is a player, like the new moon and crossing over these other planets and conjuncting this and that, it's really traipsing over and connecting with so many of the planets this week. It'll cross over Venus tomorrow, and then it's conjoining the sun for the new moon, and it's crossing over Pluto the next day, then it crosses over Saturn, and then it crosses over Mercury, and then it crosses over Jupiter. So the moon is really trying to teach us some stuff this week. So if we listen to our intuition and listen to our dreams and put extra energy into spiritual practice time, you can have some amazing reveals this week, is what I'm feeling with all this lunar activation and touching and kissing all these planets this week. Is like, okay, this, and it could also feel like you're doing bumper cars and getting jerked once you get a hit on that. Oh, wait. Oh, and then this comes out of nowhere and you're like, okay, that, all right. So on Friday, we have Well, Mercury, it's a spiritual day. The sun's going to be at 25, which makes to a 7. So it may be a day for us to go, okay, wait, let me process all that's gone down this week. Wait, let me catch my breath. Um, and then on Sunday, like I said, we have Jupiter squaring Uranus. So it can be something big. Jupiter expands things. And so it's with it squaring up with Uranus, like this energy is going to be forcing change this week. Major change this week. Unexpected things left and right, square offs, protesting, people's opposite opinions coming head to head. It's really a week of a lot of that. You know, the theme is power and control, and who has power, and what do you give your power over to? Who in your life do you give your power over to? So that's, you know, and where in your life do you want to put an end to abuses of power? Where do you need to remove yourself or your energy away from something or someone that's been having power or control over you? Even within your life, what has power and control over your life? Are you letting a food addiction run riot, or any kind of addiction, a codependency run riot? Are you letting your work run over you? Are you letting kids run over you? Like, all these things could come up in your face this week to be addressed, right? And so this point next Sunday, we're going to have gone through, like, it feels like several weeks in one, really, astrologically. Like, it's not an easy week. So all the more reason to plug into spiritual practices and breathe deeply and really make sure that you're plugged into your own intuition and your spiritual center, so you know which way to go, you know which ways not to go, you know where to remove your energies, you know where to place your energies, because you're listening to your intuition. If you try to figure this week out, it's going to be really, really rough. At the end of the week, Mercury goes into its shadow period. Now, what do I mean by that? So Mercury will go retrograde on the 30th. Right. So when Uranus goes direct this week, we'll have like 2 weeks where all the planets are moving forward. And then Mercury goes retrograde. Mercury usually wreaks havoc in relationships and communication and transportation and your technology, computers, phones, all that kind of stuff can go really belly up when Mercury goes retrograde. So it will be traipsing quickly through Uranus, and then it stops at 26 degrees and starts going backwards. So the shadow period is the period that it will come back to. So it comes back all the way to 11 degrees. So when Mercury makes it to 11 degrees at the end, by the end of this week, it will be entering its shadow period. And then we'll go up to 26 degrees of Aquarius, stop, turn around on the 30th, and then it'll go back to this, right? And so there's a theme that we start working out. And this theme is in Aquarius, right? Mercury's getting us to rethink, recommunicate in this area where Aquarius is, where Saturn and Jupiter are going to be hanging. Saturn will be there for like almost 3 years. Jupiter, well, it actually bops up into Pisces this summer for a little bit and comes back into Aquarius. But so Jupiter will be making 3 passes over Aquarius this year too, because it does a retrograde energy in Aquarius. So Mercury and Jupiter this year are going to be doing this retro action in Aquarius. So that's one of the areas that I feel is activated for transformation and change and rethinking Mercury, how you go about this part of your chart. So I think I'm going to move to that aspect right now. So another thing that I thought was super interesting, I pulled up Donald Trump's chart just to look at what his transits are doing right now. And so Pholus is an asteroid that is like, it's an instigator. It can be like, it can represent a catalyst. It's like lighting the end of a dynamite stick. It's about transformation and change, sudden, unexpected, but also can be like, when you start something, you can't go back and take, like, once you set off the dynamite, you can't like unstop it. Like, it can be shooting yourself in your own foot kind of energy, right? So Donald has Pholus at 24 degrees of Capricorn, right where Pluto is sitting right now. I find that super interesting, that he's basically shot himself in the foot while Pluto's right there. Death and transformation is right there. So I'm just fascinated by the transits. I'm a total astrology nerd. I've been doing psychic readings for 33 years this month. For most of that time, I was using just channeling and using tarot cards. But in the last several years, I've gotten more and more into studying the transits, which is like knowing what the astrological weather report is. And it's just fascinating to me. And I watch them every day. I pay attention to what's happening. I look at where the planets are and what kind of relationships they are with each other. And it's just so interesting. It's really a tool to help understand the times and what we're moving through. So anyway, that's the big thing that jumped out to me at Donald's in Donald's chart. And that's conjunct America's Pluto too at 27 degrees, 3 degrees off of that. So there's other things that he has conjunct. I don't want to dive too deeply into his stuff today, but that one aspect I thought was super interesting. Okay, so I'm going to start with Aries, and I'm going to first talk about where Pluto is, what house Pluto is, and this is for sun, moons, and risings. So those are the three most important areas in someone's chart, and you get your rising sign by the time and place that you were born. If you don't know the time that you were born, you cannot know what your rising is. But if you can, most people have it on their birth certificates, but not everybody. Some people's parents have written it in a Bible or a baby book, and that, or the parent just remembers it for whatever reason. But if you can excavate your birth time, it is valuable information, because I see in my chart, for example, I'm a triple Aries. My sun and my moon and my Mercury are all in Aries. My rising sign is Libra. So I see the timing of events and where the transits are in my rising sign really helps me a lot with the timing and understanding when things are shifting for me personally, as I've been noticing, because most of my life I just paid attention to what Aries horoscope and what Aries has to say. But since I've been diving more deeply into astrology over the last 10 years, I guess, I've been paying more attention to my rising sign, and it's just powerful information to know both. So Aries, sun, moons, and risings. All right, so Pluto is hanging out in your 10th house. So the 10th house represents, it's your mission in life. It's power and control. It's leadership aspects. It can be the father energy too, is like issues with your father, or you being a parent. And so you're having a death and transformation in this area of your life. Pluto has been there for a while. It's been moving through this house for a while, and it'll be moving for the next 3 years, culminating, bringing to a head these issues of things that you need to personally transform. And for Aries, that's in your work, your mission, what you're doing out in the world. You may find that you stop, you change career paths, there's something new that comes out in your career path that you're already on. There's some sort of rebirth happening, death and transformation happening with your mission. You can actually literally experience the death of a parent with Pluto there, or the death of your career, your job, something at work really transforms and changes. Okay, and the area of focus this year is really the Aquarius energy, which for Aries and Aries risings is your 11th house, which is finding that you will be restructuring, changing up, expanding your relationships with others. This is the house of like networks and friends and connections and groups. And so that you may find that you are spending time in new groups, or online counts, restructuring your life, reformatting, placing greater emphasis in who are your friends, who are your connections. It's also, relationships out in the world. It can be personal relationships as well. But it's usually more like friendships and networks and connections, so that you may restructure that, you may reform that, you may be having new expansions in your circle of friends, new friends that are bringing good juju into your life. And then the Uranus energy is happening in Taurus, and that is happening in your second house. So it's been there for a couple of years already. It'll be there for another 5 years or so. But this is where Mars is joining with Uranus right now, coming together. And this is where Black Lilith is, where deep fears are also being cleared out. So, and this is the second house can represent your money, how you get paid, your work, career, food, how you feed yourself. You can change up your diet. You can have sudden good things come in. Like Uranus can, like I said, can bring in like new work, new ideas around this, new ways that you might want to feed yourself. It can bring up fears around this, like, oh my God, I'm not going to have enough. I'm going to, financial concerns and issues could come up in order to be transformed. So it's a good energy overall, but it's definitely shaking up this house for Aries. Taurus. You're having Pluto right now is in your 9th house. This is the house that represents knowledge, higher learning, seeking spiritual truths, what you believe to be true, foreign travel. So Pluto is having a death and transformation. You may completely change up what you believe to be true. You may decide, oh, I thought I wanted to go and study law, but I want to study this instead. You thought you were going to be a Christian your whole life, you may start studying Hinduism instead, or Buddhism or something else. So that there's a major shift or transformation in this 9th house for you. The Aquarian energy is happening in your 10th house. So this is where you may change up your work, what you're going forward in terms of career. You may have just rethink what you've thought about leadership, power, and control in your life. You may rework your relationship with your father. Your Uranus energy is happening in your 1st house. So this can be shaking up just how you put yourself out there in the world. You may change up how you dress. You may suddenly be discovered and a light be shining on your career path. You may have childhood issues come up and come to the surface with the Uranus energy and the deep Black Lilith energy there in your 1st house. Like how you show up in the world and being afraid of what other people think of you, for example, could come up. You could really transform that area of your life right now with this Uranus energy. Okay. Then we have the Cancers. So Cancers are having the Pluto transformative energy showing up in your 8th house. This is the house of Pluto. It's death and transformation. It's Scorpio energy. So it's the house of the channel of getting psychic information from the other side, but it can literally, with Pluto in your house of death and transformation, the planet of death and transformation, in your house of death and transformation, you can literally be having people close to you crossing and passing in your life. But it doesn't have to be literal. It can be the death of relationships, that the person's alive, but they're going somewhere else. It's also the house of sexuality. So you can have a transformation in your sex life. You may decide all of a sudden you're not going to be monogamous. You're going to be poly, for example, or the other way around. You're going to go from being poly to being monogamous. You're going to get into or out of a relationship here. And I'm really seeing the channeling energy of like someone with a lot of planets in the 8th house is usually have strong psychic ability. So your psychic intuition can really be revealing things to you in a very, very loud and clear way. So your Aquarian energy is happening in your ninth house. So this is the area where you may be rethinking things, restructuring things again, thinking, well, you know what? I'm going to go back to school, or I'm going to go study this, or I'm going to go seek out this guru or this spiritual teacher. This is what I want to learn now. I want to go travel the world. How you're going to do that with the lockdown, you may have to be waiting till later this year, but this energy is going to be activated all year long, this Aquarius energy. So there's going to be rethinking what you believe in things. This is the house that's Sag rules. So it's your belief structures can be completely shifted and changed this year. Again, spiritual practices can change. You could decide to go after that master's or the PhD this year too. The Aquarian energy is happening in your 12th house. So this is the house of karma, deep, dark secrets, past life information. So this Black Lilith in this house, Uranus in this house could be shaking up things that you might even not be able to access and get in touch with. If it's stirring up past life stuff, you may not understand it unless you have that portal open for you, which, you know, many of us do. So I get past life flashbacks. I have dreams about past lives. I have just in my waking life flashbacks about past life stuff all the time. It's also institutions. So you can like all of a sudden find that you get arrested or that someone you love has been arrested or has to be hospitalized. It's hospitals and institutions, also this 12th house. So sudden unexpected things for the Cancers can really be kind of disconcerting because it can really be impacting you on a super, super deep level. All right, we next will move to, oh, that was Gemini, not Cancer. I'm sorry. All that last stuff was Gemini, not Cancer. So Gemini, I didn't skip you. I just said the wrong thing. So Gemini is the one with the death and the transformation and Pluto in the 8th house. And then all that I just said was not about Cancer. It was Gemini. I'm sorry. So this is the first time I've done this. So this is, I'm going to have to keep working this out. So the next is Cancer. So sorry about that. So if you thought I just went right over you, Gemini, I did not. All that last bit that I talked about was for you. All right, now I'm going to go to Cancer. So Cancers are seeing the Pluto energy, this death and transformation energy. The new moon is in these same places where I'm talking about the Pluto in your house of relationships. And so this is significant relationships, significant others, is work relationships, friendships. It's also the house of this is obvious enemies. The 12th house, the Gemini is having the secret enemies, the hidden enemies, the ones that will behind your back say things to you. This house has enemies that'll come up to your face and say, hey, I don't like you. So you can have this energy of transformation happening, though, Cancers, in your relationship. You may be saying, I am done with this relationship. I cannot do this anymore. That relationship to work as well, or to another person. But I feel like a lot of Cancers are going to end their personal relationships or end friendships. Your Aquarius energy is happening in your 8th house. So you're going to be rethinking what you think of death and transformation. You're going to be rethinking what you think of the whole psychic realm of things. Cancers are pretty psychic anyway, intuitively. You may just have these super expanded. You may find that your guides are just working with you overtime and channeling information for you. And again, you may be rethinking your approach to your sexual relations, how you approach your taxes. This is also the house of taxes. And then your Aquarian energy is happening in your 11th house. So, your Uranus energy is happening in your 11th house. So sudden unexpected, Black Lilith, Mars is here in your 11th house. So it can be really disconcerting in your circle of friends, in your networks and connections. You may have some of your deepest fears about whether do you belong here. You may be changing up the networks and the friends in your friend circle, or the groups or the clubs that you're connected to. You may be having um, some significant shifts in this way in your life. Okay, let's see. Now I'm moving Cancer, we're moving to Leo. All right, so Leo is having the Pluto new moon energy happening in your 6th house. This is the house of health and service to others. It's also one of the work houses. So you can have like a total transformation. It's also the house of like addictions. And so you can be having a new beginning when it comes to how you take care of your health, Leos. And your Aquarius energy is happening in your 7th house. So you may be rethinking your approach to relationships. You may be having your relationships really change up on you. And it may be happening from the outside rather than you changing up. You may be rethinking your approach to relationships in general, or rethinking your approach to communicating with people. And your Taurus energy with Uranus and Black Lilith is showing up in your 10th house. So you may be having deep fears energy coming up in your house of mission, your work in the world. What are you supposed to be doing here? You may be having that be shaken up for you. You may be having your deep fears about pursuing your career, pursuing why'd you come here? You may be having deep fears come up around that energy of 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 feeling maybe not good enough, those deep fears of like I'm not good enough for my what I want to be doing, like oh my, can I really do this, those kind of things. Again, any fears that are coming up are in for anybody is meant to be transformed, right? We see the fear so we can act in reverse of what the fear is. I think one of the most important things to do when fears come up is to look at them and say, so what would the opposite of this fear be? So, for example, for the Leos, if you're having fear come up around your career or mission, or feeling like I'll never figure it out what I'm supposed to be or do here, or, um, you know, I want to be a pilot, but I'm afraid of all the work that's going to go in to do that, for example. What's the opposite of that fear? That you're getting clarity, even if you don't know what you're supposed to do here on this planet yet, that you're getting clarity about that. I trust that I will be clearly guided about what I'm supposed to be doing, is a way that you could turn that fear around, for example. All right. So I'm moving around these little sticky tabs on my computer so I can help me take place, keep place. All right. So after Leo, we have the Virgos. So Virgos, this is sun, moons, and risings. You're having this Pluto new moon transformation energy happening in your 5th house. This is the house of sexuality, creativity, children. So you may be having a child leave your home too. Like if you have grown children, you may be having the children move out. It may be time with you deciding you're going to start learning a new instrument, or you're going to start taking art classes, or but there's a powerful new energy here in this realm of creativity. You may start writing a new project, for example. Your Aquarius energy is happening in your 6th house. So you'll be rethinking, renovating, reinventing your house of work and your house of health and service. So you may decide that you're going to change up your diet, your health, your routine with health. You may get help around an addiction as well. You may decide I'm going to start volunteering for a nonprofit. I'm going to put my energies there. I'm going to help in that way. I'm feeling more guided to help. I want to get out of my head and give to others, for example. And your Uranus Black Lilith energy is happening in your 9th house. So this is the house of foreign travel, higher learning. So you may be having this disconcerting energy like knock you off in terms of your plans to grow spiritually, to pursue extra degrees. You may be here fear coming up. I'm not good enough. I don't feel like I can learn that. I'm not smart enough, could be fears that come up. I really want to travel, but I can't. I mean, some of these can be, I feel like the travel will be able to be free to move about the cabin later this year. I think summertime into fall will be able to start moving about the globe a little bit better, so that you may find that you just decide all of a sudden you get an offer from someone in a foreign country and you're going to take them up on it. Come visit me here. All right, I will. That may be the energy with that. Or again, sudden unexpected, all of a sudden you may have a spiritual awakening. This is the house of the spiritual guru and higher learning. So you may all of a sudden be hit with a spiritual awakening, which could be super cool. All right, what's next? We have Virgo. Now we have Libra. Yes. Okay, so Libra is having this Pluto new moon energy show up in your fourth house. So this is the house of home and family. So you may literally be having your home changing. You may be moving here in the next few years or in the near future. You may have something just even get initiated this week around something new in your home, a new or a search for a new home. It could also deal a new energy with your children or family, or your mother. This is the house of the mother. So, or if you are a mother, there could be something that could really be a transformation that happens, a new beginning that happens in terms of mothering. You may find out you are going to be a mother, for example. The Aquarian energy is happening in your fifth house. It's the house of creativity and sexuality. And so you can have new romance coming in. And again, creative ideas that you just find you're just prolific with writing or painting or dancing, coming up with choreography. You can be having a juicy sex life this year with the beautiful Aquarian energy in your fifth house. The Taurus energy is happening in your eighth house. So this is the house of the channel. So you may be having, it's also the house of other people's money. So you may have sudden income coming in out of nowhere, unexpectedly, like you have money that just shows up. You may be having unexpected psychic downloads coming in. You may have unexpected deaths as well in your life. I'm a Libra rising, so I've had Uranus in this house for me for the last couple of years. I had a dear close friend die unexpectedly last year. It was not COVID, before COVID happened. So that's just an example. I'm like, yeah, Uranus is in my eighth house. So that's an example of how that can show up. All right, we're halfway through. All right, after Libra, we have the Scorpio. Scorpio, you're having Pluto and the new moon in your third house. So this is the house of communication. It also rules your head. So you can have a deep level transformation, new beginning in how you think about something or how you're looking at something. It's also the house of neighbors and siblings. So you can have a big shift or transformation with a sibling. Yeah. This is like early education too. So there may be something that gets stirred up in terms of how you were educated, and a death and transformation in terms of how you were taught something. And you may rethink, well, I was taught this, but that's not true. You may have a death of the way of thinking because of how you were taught, or an energy that you've carried through your lifetime because of how you were treated by your siblings, for example. That could be transformed and changed. You're having the Aquarius energy in your fourth house, home and family, mom. So you can be rethinking and having an activation here in this house. You can be also thinking about moving, thinking about how you want to maybe rearrange your home, your room, thinking about you're changing your beliefs and your thoughts around mothering, or what you thought your mother did for you. Those thoughts can be shifted with Mercury going through this house of Aquarius here in the near future, and then retrograde in it. You may be rethinking this energy. You have the Uranus energy in your 7th house, so you can have sudden, unexpected love relationships come out of nowhere. You can also have people leave out of nowhere. This is that sudden, unexpected energy in your house of relationships. This, again, work relationships, primary relationships, love relationships. You can have deep fears coming up around your relationships, around whether or not you're going to have really a deep relationship or not. So it's time to transform those fears if that's what's coming up for you. The Scorpios. All right, now we're moving on to the Sages. And you're having this Pluto energy coming up in your 2nd house. So you're having transformation and new beginnings in the house of your work, career, your finances, food, how you feed yourself, new beginnings here. The Aquarian energy for you is happening in your 3rd house, which is the house of communication. So if you've been wanting to write a book, this may be the time to get her done. Sagittarius, you could really just feel like you're prolific right now in terms of your communications. If you're wanting to write people that you love letters, you may be rethinking what you want to say and putting it into writing in that way. Again, this is siblings, neighbors, so you may be rethinking your approach to your siblings or how you want to communicate with your siblings. Maybe rethinking that. Issues may come up in that area of your life to make you stop and go, okay, I'm going to rethink this. You have the Taurus energy showing up in your 6th house. So the Mars, the Uranus, like Lilith, showing up in your house of work, service for others, health. So you can have sudden changes coming up in your work, especially with the 2nd house stuff also being transformed with Pluto. You can definitely be having a lot of work changes, Sag, or just changing where you do your work, for example, or who comes into your work can change drastically with both of these energies. The 6th house is work, and the 2nd house can be how you make your living, the money. It's more like the money you make through work, whereas the 6th house is more like what the actual work you're doing. But it's also, service. You may again decide, oh my God, I want to volunteer for a food pantry and help hand out food to people. And this may be something that just comes up sort of unexpectedly, something you never thought of doing before, and all of a sudden, I want to do that. I want to help quell my fear of not having enough food by giving away food. That kind of thing might happen for you, Sagittarius. But it feels like there's a lot of inspiration coming around work for the Sag. Then next we have the Capricorns, and the Capricorn is having the death and transformation energy and the new birth in your 1st house. So the house of how you interact with the world, how you show up, what you do here on this planet, how people see you may be completely transformed. You may totally decide you're going to change up your hair or change up your appearance in some way. The Aquarius energy for you is happening in your 2nd house. So you may be rethinking how you do your work, or how you get paid, or where you want to store your money, and taking it out of the stock market, or I'm going to invest it this way instead of that way. Maybe rethinking, again, how you feed yourself, how you take care of your physical body. That may be shifting and changing. I'm feeling that very strongly for the Capricorn energy. And this Uranus energy is happening in your 5th house. So you can definitely have sudden, unexpected love relationships coming and going, deep fears coming up around creativity or your sexuality, children. Sudden, unexpected children could come along, Capricorn. So if you don't want kids, watch out. Be careful. They could just come in and sneak in and surprise you. My children certainly have come in that way, sudden unexpected surprises. That's one of the ways that Uranus sitting in the fifth house could show up for the Capricorns, Capricorn risings, Capricorn moons. But it can bring a very spiritual energy to your creativity, creative ideas, inspired ideas creatively. Working through these deep fears in a creative way, approaching your fears by, I'm going to write them down, I'm going to turn them all into affirmations, I'm going to chant over them every day, or I'm going to just go over these so that I can reintegrate these deep fears in a positive way, creative way to approach your fears. That's an example of how that can show up. All right. Now we're getting closer to the end. We go to the Aquarius, the maverick themselves. All right, so death and transformation happening in your 12th house. So this again can be hidden enemies, transformation in your deep karma, like the transformation in feeling crazy, karmic patterns that have just felt like have got you deep. You can all of a sudden transform patterns that you felt compulsively repetitive in your life, can just be transformed with this energy of this week. This would be a great week to just tackle the deep stuff, Aquarius, and say, all right, I'm going to go for this deep thing. I'm going to change this karma. The Aquarius energy is happening in your first house. So rethinking how you show up in the world, having new structures around how you put your energy out there. You may be pulling your energy back. You may be putting it out there in a bigger way. Your Uranus energy, Taurus energy is happening in your fourth house. So sudden unexpected things happening in your home. So you could move into or out of a home. You can have changes coming up with your mother, changing coming up if you are a mother. The deep fears showing up. These could even be childhood fears that come up to be addressed and cleared out, especially with the 12th house energy, because that can be deep-seated stuff. So my sense is that the Aquarians are going to be really having some deep stuff come up this week, and lift it up to the light. Just let it go and be open for a deep cleaning, a deep transformation of your karma. And the last but not least, we have the Pisces. So you're having the death transformation, new moon energy in your 11th house. So this is the house of networks, relationships with other people, connections with others. So there can be a complete transformation in who you hang out with, who you let in your life, who you want to be your friends. The Aquarius energy is happening in your 12th house. So you may be rethinking deep karmic patterns. You may be rethinking your, this can also be the house of addiction. So there could be rethinking how you deal with the deep things in your life that are not serving you, deeply held patterns, grooves you've gotten into that don't work for you. You may be rethinking your approach to that. Maybe you've always tried it this way. You've always tried this diet. When I need to lose weight, I always do this diet. Maybe you may completely rethinking that and say, okay, this time I'm gonna go into a 12-step group and dive into my deep fears around my addiction stuff, for example. You can have past life people come into your life with this energy too, with the Aquarius energy in the 12th house. And then you have the Taurus, Uranus, deep fears, Mars energy happening in your third house. So you may be having sudden unexpected messages, communication coming in. You may be channeling a book too. You may be all of a sudden, I got to write about this. I've got to send this message out. I know what I'm supposed to be communicating to others. You may come up with a cool app or computer program. You may be having sudden unexpected news from a sibling, from a neighbor happening with that Uranus. Just interesting energy coming up with that. So those are just examples of how that can show up. And so I hope you got something out of that. It's the first time I've attempted to try to just do that in a generic way for all the signs. So yeah, a lot of rethinking. I'm just getting that Mercury energy so strong this week too, like rethinking communication, rethinking. And a lot of that is still, I didn't talk about the nodes this week. I've talked about in a lot of the other videos, the north and south nodes are still, the north nodes in Gemini, south nodes in Sag, and they're square Neptune. So north node is Gemini is about our thinking, the south node is about our beliefs, and the Neptune can be that, like, what do I think? What do I believe? I don't know. But when Neptune gets clear, it can be downloads and rethinking of things and changing up beliefs, changing up your thoughts. Can't believe this. I didn't think that could happen. Those kind of things can be up. They've been up. They were up last week. They've been up for a while like that. And so, yeah, and we have that square off is going to be continuing for several weeks to come. So, which also highlights social media with the Gemini, North Node in Gemini. We certainly have had lots of news around social media this week. That's for darn sure. So that's an interesting way that has also shown up. So, okay, I am feeling like that is enough. If you are still listening, bless you. Thank you for your long attention. I really appreciate all my subscribers and all my clients that give me feedback on how much they enjoy these videos. I really appreciate that you watch these regularly. Please subscribe to my page if you haven't already. Like it, comment, share it with your friends, turn other people on to it. If there's anything specific you want me to address in future videos, shoot me an email. Let me know. I'll be putting my email contact information below the video. So if you want to contact me to schedule a psychic reading or a past life regression or a rebirthing session or a psychic development session or house clearing, I'd be happy to serve you. All right. Peace.